Hey, John, my feet, brother, one love, all right. Hey, wow. Everybody calls me the Rasta Manja. Hey, I'm so excited to be here today to introduce the next mask maker who we're featuring tonight on Mask Alive. And his name is Eric Bornstein. This gentleman is a fine artist. And like Jonathan Kip Baker, also a wonderful teacher and mentor to many people throughout the world. He went on a special mission to Jamaica to make some giant effigy heads of heroes of Jamaican history. And that's why I'm very proud to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Bornstein. All right, y'all man, big brother, one love.
Hello, my name is Eric Bornstein. I'm a mask maker, and I've been a mask maker for 35 years. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, US of A, and I'm here in Jamaica on a Fulbright grant to reinvigorate and revive the art of effigy making. Effigies are giant representations, usually in paper mache, of famous characters that are used for community ritual, to bring out for special occasions so that you can reflect on and celebrate the heroes of your culture. I've been making masks for a long time, and I've been making giant masks, and typically it's been villains. For the last several years I've worked with an Iranian human rights group making giant masks of Ayatollah Khamenei and President Rouhani that were performed regularly at the Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza at the United Nations in New York, but to show the terrible things happening in their country and their leadership. So I was crying out to the universe, I want to create the heroes. I want to make giant masks of the personalities, the characters that we celebrate, that show the best of what we have to offer as human beings and not the worst. And you know what? The next day I get a phone call, actually an email, from the Ministry of Culture. Mr. Salmon asked me to make the effigies of the heroes of Jamaica, and after months of conversations I began the work and created the Marcus Garvey last December and shipped it over. And over the next several months we worked through the American Embassy and the Ministry and the JCDC to bring me over here and to assemble a team of young Jamaican artists that could carry on this art. So the Effigy Revival Project is to, well, as I said, to revive and reinvigorate the art. So what it takes to do that is to create a whole new tradition, a visual art tradition here in Jamaica, with Jamaican artists fueling this revolution in the arts here in Jamaica. There hasn't been a focus on the visual arts here for quite some time, and so what I'm hoping to do is to kickstart the process. I built 3 giant armatures which allow you to make the effigies. You can't really make them in the same way, and so those will be here, and those will live here, and they can be the beginning of hundreds of new effigies. So an armature is the architecture that's under, well, you'll see the heavy clay. There's 1,000 pounds of clay that was used here, but underneath that is a considerable structure that begins with thick plywood, 2x4s. It's a whole architecture, and then we build up the general shape of a head and the shoulders. Over that, we pack the clay. So the clay is really, even 1,000 pounds of clay is just the thin coating over the armature. But it gives you the base to do that. You couldn't build these with just clay. It would be, right? You could imagine. So having that armature, I don't even have armatures this good in my own studio at home. I don't have the room. And so over here you have 3 of them. So that means that these artists and future Jamaican artists that hear about this, hopefully through this broadcast, through this documentary, are attracted to this art and think, wow, what a great way to make very public art and celebrate my culture.
I'm here doing Usain Bolt. Got involved in this program by a friend which introduced me and I came by. It's actually a great project, you know what I mean? I've learned a lot in which I didn't know and so forth. Now I'm here trying to get Usain Bolt to perfection by the end of the day. So you know, he's a fast man. So I've been a fast worker too.
Typically, when I work on these at home, it takes 1 month to do each one. What we've done here, right now we're 5 weeks in, we have 8 of these going, 8. And we have, most of them are within days of being finished. It begins with studying the characters. So for me, it means I look for photographs, I Google information, I read about the characters, I get a sense of who they are as human beings, as people, as cultural, like why are they political heroes, why are they cultural icons? And I read about them, so I get a sense of who they are as people, and historically, what they've accomplished. I begin to draw them, I find the most iconic images, for example, Marcus Garvey. Well, you don't want to make Marcus Garvey without the blue hat with the white feather, because no one will know who it is. Right? Because that's the image that's in people's minds for Marcus Garvey. And so the same thing with some of the characters, you don't have quite something like that, but there's always something similar that identifies them in an iconic image.
This part I'm doing is providing the structure, the framework for this piece to be worn by the person who will be modeling it. Because of the size of it, we need to create a structure where it is strapped to the body, so that if breeze or just the general moving around, it doesn't fall off and get damaged.
My goal is to really get to know them, because then we begin to sculpt. And sculpting is 360 degrees. It's in 3 dimensions. So we have to work from all different angles. We stand up on ladders. We stand way back at the room. We dip down to the floor and look up. So we have to have it be right from every angle, because when they're moving around on the streets and the crowd, everybody sees them from all different angles. We want them to be alive from all those angles. So we sculpt them, and it takes several days to do the sculpture. After that, to prepare for the paper mache, which we layer on over the clay, we have to provide a barrier between the clay and the paper. So we have to put plastic wrap all around, very, very carefully, so that we don't obscure the details. Then the paper mache presses in. We have to be very careful. We're using very small pieces of paper and covering everything over. It takes a long, long time. They'll tell you, and a lot of care. Every single piece of paper out of those thousands and thousands of pieces of paper, everyone has to be put on with care. After the effigies leave the studio, that's when they begin their actual life. What you're getting here is behind the scenes. This is the making of. But their real life begins when they leave the studio. These will be owned by the Ministry of Culture and the JCDC. So they'll store them. There's stands that we've built for them. There'll probably be new stands built for them. There's some talk of housing them permanently at the National Gallery of Art, where they'd be in temperature control and on stands, and that they would last forever if they get to live in that type of environment when they're not being used. In any event, I know the National Gallery will do an exhibit of them at some point, and we're really hoping that they're stored in a great place where the public can view them at any time. This is just the beginning, that we're doing this enormous push to get all of these 10 pieces out this time, but that every year now they'll have a year to produce 3 new characters, so that, for instance, when you go to the National Celebration with your children, that every year it's like, ooh, look who's being presented. And that every year that's a tradition that you look forward to seeing who are the new effigies. And like I said, these are the artists that are making this happen. Because I won't be here, but they now know how to build these. And hopefully this will attract and inspire more Jamaican artists to become involved with this project. I'm hoping this becomes something that's significant here. And my thanks to the ministry and to the JCDC for helping to facilitate this, and also the American Embassy for making this happen.